the number of wires that go across the car went from 490 to 155. High-powered harness mass went down by 84%.
84%?
For high-powered loads.
The forming process?
Yes.
We call it air bending.
Air bending.
Yeah, and so basically it looks like a press brake, but we're shooting high-pressure air on a bearing that's floating the steel. So as the brake moves up and bends it...
So you're doing it cold?
Yeah, we're doing cold. This is a pretty big casting. It's pretty...
It's
not as big as that one.
So is this like 8,000 tons?
No, this is actually a 6,500 ton. The rear,
Are you kidding me?
The rear is 9,000 tons.
So I'm on the YouTube homepage, and apparently YouTube really wants me to watch this video. Tesla Cybertruck deep dive with 5 Tesla executives. Munro Live continuing to deliver the goods. Let's see what they've got to say.
Hi everyone, I'm Lars Moravi. I'm the head of vehicle engineering. I do most of the normal car parts on this truck.
I'm Franz von Holzhausen, head of design. Drew Baglino, I lead powertrain and energy at Tesla, so the batteries, drive units, the power electronics in the truck.
Pete Bannon, I lead the low voltage electronics and the autopilot hardware team.
David Lau, run the vehicle software team here.
In short, every one of the big hitters involved in Cybertruck, right here, right now. This is going to be an excellent conversation.
Certainly the guy that needs to figure it out the most is that German company that starts with a V. I can't remember, but anyways, they seem to be, I just heard a few minutes ago that they're going to eliminate 40% of their production.
Wow.
This is an epic moment. I'm not sure if Sandy Munro was meant to discuss this or whether or not somebody anonymously told him, who knows. But if true, if a large automotive manufacturer that happens to start with V and possibly the second letter in that name might be W, if they're going to eliminate 40% of their production, that would make complete sense. I kind of predicted this ahead of time. Remember when I said Volkswagen, Toyota, massive falls from grace, currently on a good year, 10 plus million vehicles per year. Eventually, if they're lucky, maybe it'll be a couple of million. Well, if true, VW is going to go from around 10 or so million to about 4 million vehicles per year, just based on Sandy's comments right now. I'm so shocked that I called this ahead of time. Rest in peace, VW.
Yeah, that's wow. And the other thing I heard was, guess what? The German government doesn't know how they're going to be able to make that happen because of all the rules and regulations that they've got. You may have heard when we got the Model Y, the second one, we started tearing it apart. I was very disappointed that it didn't have, I thought it was going to have a 48-volt system, and there it was not there. So
Not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying?
No, we didn't really try. I mean,
So I'm going to jump in here. I have a suspicion the reason that Tesla didn't try is as follows. 1, Model 3, Tesla knew would become the world's best-selling vehicle by unit volume. Massive volume. Doing too much that was new would have been a terrible mistake. And by the way, Tesla's Model Y now is the world's best-selling vehicle by volume. So they got there. If they did too much that was new, like an entirely new architecture, it would have taken so long to ramp up. We've seen Cybertruck from unveil to first production about 4 years. Additionally, when Tesla first announced the Model Y, they told us it was going to be built on the same platform as Model 3 and share roughly 75% of its parts in common, at least to begin with. The whole point of Model Y was to adapt the Model 3 to an SUV format, which would sell significantly more units per year than the Model 3, which is already slaying it, get it to market as fast as possible, and go from there. Cybertruck was Tesla's opportunity to do something completely new and re-architecture an entire vehicle from the ground up, including 48-volt steer-by-wire and a bunch of other innovations as well, obviously including an exoskeleton. But Tesla's now reached the point as a company where they can take these massive chances and reimagine everything as opposed to some things, which is an extremely scary proposition for any company hoping to compete with Tesla.
part of the problem is that we have a tremendous amount of manufacturing capacity in place to build 12-volt things for Model Y, and we don't really want to rebuy all that capacity and retool it for 48 volts. So 48 volts is very much a forward-going thing as we redesign new cars and introduce new cars, or we have to increase capacity, then that's an opportunity, since we have to go buy new tooling anyway, to switch to 48 volts. And that's sort of true for a lot of the capabilities across the car.
We are doing some interesting things with communication on the truck.
Oh yeah, so we have switched to Ether loop. So we have a gigabit Ethernet loop in the car that connects all of the high-speed controllers together. It's bi-directional for redundancy, and that's turned out really well. So the number of wires that go across the car has been reduced dramatically, even though the number of endpoints went up. So the total mass of wires is way down, and the average length of wires is significantly shorter. So Model 3 has 273 endpoints, and Cybertruck has 368, so 50% more endpoints.
That's a lot more connections. Yeah.
And the number of wires that go across the car went from 490 to 155, so a 68%
Wow,
reduction.
that's three quarters.
High-powered harness mass went down by 84%.
84%
For high-powered loads. Yeah.
So, for those of you who aren't ultra engineering nerds, as we know, the best part is no part. And by removing parts and mass, the vehicle weighs less, meaning it goes further for the same amount of battery, and less stuff equals less cost. For its size, Cybertruck is surprisingly light compared to many other comparable-ish electric, quote, pickup trucks. Something a consumer will not notice, but from a Tesla investor's point of view, a big deal. And deleting these kind of parts, removing mass from the vehicle, takes a lot of big brain engineering. It's not easy, but every gram that they can remove from the vehicle in terms of total mass, every part they can remove, every process they can remove has an outsized benefit.
Another unexpected benefit of Etherloop was just debuggability of the car, because all the data for everything in the car goes over one communication link. You can connect your laptop to it and see everything, and it's all synchronized in time, so you can see exactly what the car is doing. Whereas in the past, there were multiple CAN buses, and you'd have to, you'd be connected to one CAN bus and go, missed it. Go to a different CAN bus.
And furthermore, like the amount of like debug information you could put on a 500 kilobit like theoretical peak bandwidth CAN bus is 200 times less than what you can put on a gigabit.
Well,
it is a much more like homogeneous system.
It's homogeneous. That's what it is.
In that we've got a very small number of, let's say, like Ethernet, like basically little routers that then fan out to smaller CAN buses for particular like localized purposes. I wouldn't say it necessarily reduces the amount of code, but it sure makes it easier to develop on and debug because you've got so much more visibility. And what you basically have at that point is a software-defined network. Like it's not like a statically defined CAN bus. It's like completely software-defined. We can change the way messages route and who they go to, and it listens to them completely in software on the fly.
So just a quick question. Does this description sound more like a car or a computer on wheels? If it's the latter, more of a computer on wheels, which spoiler alert it is, what are the odds that companies who have expertise producing internal combustion engine vehicles, which are not computers on wheels, what are the odds that these companies will successfully be able to transition to producing computers on wheels that are comparable in terms of performance and functionality to what Tesla's producing for a comparable price and continue to innovate at a similar rate to Tesla to avoid getting even further behind? It's really worth thinking about.
I was one of those people, love it, hate it. When I saw that thing come up, boom, I was on board immediately. And when I saw this, everything's roundy, everything is kind of like the same jelly bean. And this one here just totally blew me away. I was very, very impressed.
Well, it was a unique opportunity to have a vehicle that really wanted to be tough on the outside, to create an exoskeleton that made the form actually be a result of the function.
Straight from the horse's mouth. As I mentioned more than 4 years ago now in my Cybertruck is Engineering Genius video, Cybertruck's form, the way it looks, is a result of its function, its toughness, the stainless steel exoskeleton. Most people, when they first saw Cybertruck, did not understand this and instead were under the false impression that the Cybertruck was designed to look the way that it does first, with function coming second. The complete opposite to the reality. And this is why, in parentheses on that very early video, Cybertruck is Engineering Genius, I included, and will be copied. Because in order for companies to produce a vehicle with comparable durability, strength, toughness, they will need to use a stainless steel exoskeleton or develop their own alloy, something never before seen on Earth, which itself will be so tough that it's hard to form, meaning that you'll need something that looks like a bit of origami. If you don't want the same level of toughness, it's a different story. But if you don't deliver that same level of toughness and consumers want tough and utilitarian, you're not going to be selling your vehicle.
So I think if we do this for another vehicle and we're not honest about why we're putting the toughness and the stainless steel that drives basically the form, you can only bend the steel in one direction, and it's much less of it's more of a style thing. This is really a through and through kind of design solution based on what you can and can't do with the materials. If that makes
Well,
sense.
the material is one of the questions that I do have, and seeing as we're sitting in front of it, I might as well ask it. True stainless steel starts at about 316. What is this one here?
I
That
mean,
30 whatever
yeah,
XX.
it's a if you look at 316 or 304, you have different levels of cobalt and nickel to change the various parameters of it. The reason we called it 30X, we actually just changed it. We call it HFS now. Hard freaking stainless.
Very good. Yeah, I love it.
And the reason is it's in between all of these because we had to balance the corrosion toughness, some lower grade alloys with the ductility of the higher grade alloys. And so the balance was really, as you know, stainless isn't stainless. It rusts.
Yeah,
and so we had to make it super rust, corrosion preventative because there's nothing on it. And so we balanced that, and then we added a little more ductility because once you roll it full hard, you really can't bend it that much without cracking it. So,
Okay, so how would you classify this bending
the forming
operation?
process?
Yes,
we call it air bending.
Air bending.
Yeah, and so basically it looks like a press brake, but we're shooting high pressure air on a bearing that's floating the steel. So as the brake moves up and bends it.
So you're doing it cold?
Yeah, we're doing cold.
Oh, all right. That's wrong.
I know.
And
Rare,
it just
a rare
float,
moment.
It just
A rare
floats.
moment.
No, I'm wrong a lot. Just ask any of my people. They'll tell you.
It floats the air, right? So
Yeah.
So a very interesting moment there. Sandy Munro, a lot of expertise in manufacturing, thought he understood how Tesla was forming this stainless steel, and it turns out he was wrong. The reason this is interesting is it suggests that Tesla have conceived of a new method for forming steel that somebody like Sandy Munro wouldn't have assumed was likely or even possible. Another example of Tesla's endless innovation.
and then you get that cushion of like a air hockey table almost underneath it. It's just so you don't get the bruises on it, and we don't see that orange peel or that mark from the brake. And then we have it's all computer controlled, right? So we have you get some spring back, and then we can come back and redo it if we need to. So that's why we get the precision. But this is pretty big casting. It's pretty. It's not as big as that one.
So is this like 8,000 tons?
No, this is actually a 6,500 ton. The rear,
Are you kidding me?
The rear is 9,000 tons. Yeah.
How? Okay, so how
It's
did
just
you
about
keep it
flow,
together?
right? Like you gotta, like when you think about tonnage, it's about how much metal you're moving within
Right.
the platen size and how fast you're moving it. But you can restrict that metal flow by like making bad, feeds in bad directions. But when you look at the side, the flow, the biscuit comes in through the middle there.
Yeah.
And then we flow it all out and we do it like a river because like liquid metal wants to move like a river. A lot of times when you see these people copying us, and maybe I'm giving it away stuff, but it's an engineer drew it, right? And they drew triangles and trusses.
Yeah.
Great. But here at Tesla, we have in-house die designers that sit right next to the guys that are designing the castings, and they're going back and forth on simulations so that we can lower the tonnage of the presses we're using by integrating the design of the part into the design of the tool, which is why we don't need necessarily 8,000 ton press for the front. When we started, we thought we would. We said, we're gonna need 8,000 tons. But we worked through the team and we actually can make this front one on the same equipment as we make the Model Ys.
So getting down into the weeds here, if you know, you know. And for everyone else, I hope you haven't fallen asleep. But importantly, this is a gigantic casting. In theory, you should need a higher tonnage press. You're moving more metal, essentially. Fairly simple, right? But again, due to Tesla's big brain engineers, they figured out how to utilize machines that were sufficient for Model Y's large casting to produce a much larger front casting for Tesla's Cybertruck. Consider this for a moment. If they're using the same machines, this is less complexity and possible cross-utilization of the same machinery in Tesla factories. More importantly, the suppliers of these gigantic presses aren't needing to design a specific machine just to produce the Cybertruck front castings, meaning even the suppliers themselves will benefit more from economies of scale, meaning Tesla could buy these machines cheaper. This is a massive win, only possible because of Tesla's big brain engineers and extreme vertical integration. It was rather telling when Sandy Munro possibly had to stop himself from dropping an F-bomb in his surprise at the fact that this giant casting for Cybertruck is able to be produced on the same machine as Tesla's Model Y. This shouldn't be possible, and it suggests that the machines Tesla's using now for the Model Y castings may be a little bit of overkill for Model Y. Possibly they could re-engineer those to be even more efficient. But they've already got the machines, so why bother?
So how many presses are pushing these out now?
We have one for the front, two for the rear. But as I said, we have the Model Y ones.
Yeah.
So we have four of those. We can swap the die out. But we only need two. Cycle times are down enough to make 5,000. We only need two presses, one for front and one for rear.
there's a couple of things that people don't quite understand. And one of them is how do these things crash and blah, blah, blah. And let's just swing over there.
One of the things on the crushability, Sandy, and I'm sure you've seen, is we have different size fins from front to rear.
Right. Yeah.
So we have controlled chaos in the crushing. You can see it even here, like how these build up, and that's so that we know this is going to break first. That section's smaller, the ribs are lower, and then this will get second because each one is progressively stronger. Right. Crash is actually a simple part of these designs now.
This is the dual motor setup, front and rear dual motor. I mean, maybe one thing I'll just say is we kind of have a platform approach to the Cybertruck. We've got 3 different powertrain configurations, but we only have 1 PM rotor stator, 1 IM rotor stator, 1 inverter, and 1 gear set. And so, but with that, we can do a rear-wheel drive, a dual motor, and a tri-motor.
Right.
So
Another example of Tesla's big brains here. In short, basically copy-paste. Rear-wheel drive, bam. All-wheel drive, bam. Tri-motor, Cyber Boost, bam. Done. As opposed to the way many companies would manufacture the different variations. Such a company might be able to outperform a Cybertruck on certain metrics, but because Tesla's trying to develop a mass market vehicle with the Cybertruck, the less complexity, the more simplicity, the more economies of scale, the faster these things can be produced, the more streamlined, win-win-win. Again, I mentioned that when Model Y was first unveiled, Tesla told us they were planning on using about 3/4 of the parts in common. There was a reason for this. The same level of simplicity and faster scale, greater profitability, more economies of scale. Now it's true, Tesla probably does lose a tiny amount of performance and efficiency in terms of the actual vehicle specs by having a copy-paste sort of system for the different variations, but the small losses they might incur are far outweighed by the economies of scale, the simplicity, the speed with which these things can be produced, and so on. And again, because this is a mass market vehicle, of which there are 2+ million reservations, the simpler and then the faster to produce, the better.
So it's scalable from like 315 horsepower on the low end to 845 horsepower on the high.
Well, the one thing that I've made comments on a lot is the fact that you do a lot of, what would be the right word, standardizing on the bits and pieces. And the others can't seem to quite make up their mind. So it takes a long time for them to figure out that, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea if I standardized.
So yeah, this is the same 4th generation drive inverter that you can get on like a performance Model Y today is also in the Cybertruck.
And there we go. Even the motor within this unit. Tesla didn't reinvent the wheel, or in this case, the electric motor. But instead, we've got a brilliant motor for Model Y. Let's work that into Cybertruck.
Though it is the 1 kV silicon version, but otherwise it's the same footprint more or less. If you took it apart, you'd be like, this looks very similar to what's in a Model Y, even though it is running at 800 volts in the Cybertruck. We've got, the configurations are, for a tri-motor, we've got 2 induction motors in the rear, 1 permanent magnet in the front. In dual motor, the PM moves to the rear and the induction motor's in the front. And then for rear-wheel drive, it's a PM in the rear. And that's kind of what the family looks like. The tri-motor does 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, rollout removed. So it's pretty performant.
So first time in a long time I had to struggle with tires being...
Yeah, tires were the limit.
The limit. I can actually go a little faster if I can make some stickier tires.
Yeah, but 2.6 seconds rollout removed is, for a truck.
2.6, that's
pretty impressive.
that'll definitely get you to where you need to in a hurry.
I mean, you'll see a lot of familiar parts, like even down to the oil chiller, the oil pump, a filter.
So again, it's worth emphasizing this. This Cybertruck drive unit contains a bunch of components and parts that Tesla's already using in their other vehicles, including essentially an identical electric motor to Model Y. And we've just heard a bunch more. Again, economies of scale, simplicity, parts in common. Now just consider this for a moment. Let's just say that Tesla's big brain engineers can improve upon their electric motors. Because we heard earlier, the almost identical electric motor being used in Cybertruck's drive unit, same footprint as the motor in Model Y. Meaning, if there's an improvement to this motor, it can propagate across Model Y and Cybertruck without any fuckery. It'll fit into the same spot. They don't need to re-engineer the housing. Nothing. This is big brain engineering in a nutshell. And the polar opposite approach to legacy automotive manufacturers. We seem to be fans of complexity and too many variations.
Even
the same one that's on my wife's tractor.
But yeah, I mean, when you take it apart, you'll see familiar pieces.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find a job for electrification in the US. So I spent from 2014 to 2019 in China. And one of my rules was every engineer 1 gram every day.
Nice.
And guess what? In the beginning, oh, look what I did. And then at the end, oh, God, it's not possible. Yeah, so they were actually going in and drilling out the center of the heads, bolts and stuff like that.
In case anyone's getting lost a bit in the weeds there, Sandy was talking about the fact that when I was helping these EV manufacturers in China, his directive to each engineer was for them to find a way to save 1 gram of mass per day. And at the beginning, extremely easy, of course. Shave a little bit off here, no problems. But by the end of his time there, having each engineer remove 1 gram a day, day after day after day, it becomes increasingly more difficult. And it may not sound like a lot, but 1 gram per day, per engineer, over a number of days, really adds up. And again, the less mass, the less cost, and the more energy efficient your vehicle.
Those are good. Hey, you know what? If you take a bunch of grams and you glue them together, you get a kilogram. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, through optimization, it literally was a game of kilograms that we pulled out when you consider the tri-motor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the coolest things about Cybertruck. The mass of the thing is just like, it's about 2950, 2980 kilos. So, what's that, 6,700 pounds, 6,800 pounds? It's like normal big truck stuff. Right. Even though we've got, massive, I don't want to, bullet resistant doors and, 3 motors in it and giant battery.
That's usually the big killer with stainless steel. They say it just weighs too much.
Because the current's much lower, the E-fuse circuits are much smaller. I can't even point to them. They're all like up in here somewhere.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
Yep. And then this is the microcontroller that runs the ether loop.
Really? All by itself? That's amazing. What's this chip doing here?
That's another microcontroller that does a lot of PWMs for like controlling window motors and things like that. Yeah.
It looks really compact.
It is.
Dense.
Yeah. Well, the problem that we're facing now is that it's dominated by the connectors. So if we could get rid of all these connectors or densify them, that would be a lot nicer.
It always seems to me that you guys pave the way and then everybody else becomes an expert. And usually the guy that comes in second, Wall Street throws rocks at them as well, saying that, they've done another dumb Tesla thing. And that's what happened with, what's his name? Jim Farley when he went to your connector, the North American. Yeah. And now everybody's done.
He looks a little smarter now.
Volkswagen. Volkswagen is not good. Yeah, well.
That domino will fall eventually. Yeah. And we've accomplished a doubling of volumetric efficiency from a power density perspective and a 50% increase in gravimetric power density.
So what does it look like if you get the extended range version? Because I know that there's something coming out with extended range, right?
What is this? What does
the
this
extra
look like?
battery pack.
Yeah.
Does that?
We can show you. I mean, it basically sits kind of in the bed.
Yeah, it looks like a toolbox in the
inches.
bed. Is what it looks like. And you can get over 460 miles of range with that extender.
460 miles. And what would that be?
Long-term target is 500.
That's right.
What about towing and whatnot? 5 and 11,000 pounds.
Surprise, surprise, long-term target over 500 as expected. I mean, this is inevitable over time as Tesla's battery energy density improves and they find ways to delete more mass from the vehicle again. Mass equals more efficiency. This 470, which is what Tesla's currently estimating, will eventually incrementally creep towards and then exceed 500 miles. For a bit of context, if I recall correctly, the original Model S, most range you could get was sub 300 miles, about 260, somewhere in that vicinity. Now, in excess of 400.
Thing that I'm dragging around, what does that give me?
I mean, it depends on the aero efficiency.
It's less the weight
thing.
and more the aero,
Yeah, it's like, if you pull a horse trailer, it's pretty bad. Maybe take away 50% of your range. But if you pull a Ski-Doo or, something a little more aerodynamic, you might be like 20 or 30%. I mean, the cool thing about Cybertruck, Franz did a good job on, was that tail really gets, with the tonneau and everything, it gets the air flowing fast and it makes a taper. So we get pretty good straight laminar flow off the back.
Right, yeah.
And as long as that's not getting disrupted by whatever you're towing, it's really just the mass,
And also
losses.
we're scaling up regenerative braking power based on the mass that we sense inside the vehicle.
That's
so we're
right.
doing our best to recapture as much of that energy as possible. So we don't at least waste it on friction brakes.
But yeah, with the range extender up over 460 miles. And obviously if you're somebody that tows a lot, like, I don't know, San Francisco to Tahoe, the range extender might make sense. But
well, the average person drives 40 miles
a day.
I mean, it's like
that's why we decided to make it an optional add-on.
And I mean,
Yeah,
most people,
exactly.
340 miles, 320 miles, what we're going to give in the dual and the tri, like that's totally fine, like for anybody. And then we want to make more electric vehicles, right? So like rather than putting more cells in that no one's ever going to use, if you want it, you can buy it.
What a shock. Tesla explaining that they looked at the data and usage and realized that it didn't make sense to put a bunch of batteries in a vehicle that almost no one would actually need. I kind of feel like I said that. Oh wait, I did say that. As I've mentioned, the only legitimate reason for a company to have a vehicle, an electric vehicle with absurd range, is simply so they can boast about the absurd range that no one's going to actually use on their electric vehicle. That's it. Because when it comes to being practical, logical, you look at the data, almost no one on the planet needs even a 400 mile, let alone a 500 mile vehicle. And for the few exceptions, the truck that needs to tow, that's where the optional range extender comes into play. I don't see the need for, at least for me anyways. If I'm going to go into the woods with something like this, I'll charge up before I take off. And if I decide to lose my mind and, travel some other place that maybe I shouldn't have.
Use the charging network.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it. Steer by wire.
Steer by wire. You asked for it on Model S. We did it on Cybertruck.
I thought you were going to bring it out on the Model S and
Similar
scare
to
the
48
crap out of
volts.
everybody.
Sometimes things take a little bit longer to bake.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, between David and me, this is a labor of love, I would say. There's a lot of functional safety that went into this. But, it's a typical steering rack, right? We went to a pinion drive on either side because, you don't need like the feel that you might get when you're driving because, the feedback actuator at the wheel handles that. But these are two smaller 48 volt motors, in-house designed, and we work with our vendors to make them. But they're roughly 50-60% of the power capacity we need. And so most steering capacity comes at like parking lot loads when your brakes on and you have to scrub the tire. So we didn't want to oversize these to do that. So if there is a faulted state and you lose one motor or one controller or one side or one power bus or whatever, you can still drive quite easily on the other motor all through the highway, pull over safely, whatever you want to do.
So that gives you a double redundancy.
Yeah, it's double redundancy.
And actually, like while you're driving normally, like 50% of the torque is coming from each one of those two motors.
Make sure
the
they're
same
both
thing
working.
on the
right. Which is a good idea because in aircraft we've been doing this forever,
right?
And
you want to be redundant, but you also want to be differentiated. So you can see on this side we don't have an angle sensor, but on this side we do. This side we have a position sensor, just so that we have different signals coming in from different motors.
Diversity of different sensing modalities
and redundancy.
And computation as well.
Well, it's a big vehicle. We wanted it to drive like a sports car, and so rear steer's the ticket to make a big thing feel small. We get about 10 degrees, 8, 9, 10 degrees of rear steer with this per side, and that's mostly at low speed. So we get about 9, 10 degrees of rear steer with this thing, and the cool thing is this motor is the same as this motor. So the controller and everything, we have 3 of them in the car. And they're all the same.
oh man, anyone catch Sandy's expression there? Check this out. Just watch his face.
10 degrees of rear steer with this thing, and the cool thing is this motor is the same as this motor. So the controller and everything, we have 3 of them in the car. And they're all the same.
Oh man. Once again, an example of Tesla reusing. More simplicity. We've heard the spiel. Very important. Apparently Sandy's impressed.
And they're all the same.
Oh man.
Back to the reuse thing.
Yeah, I learned that one from Drew.
I do not understand why it is that there's. I can tell you why. Well, I do the front steering, and he comes up with something. Well, I do the rear steering, and she comes up with something different. And then we
same team.
Yeah, same team.
Person,
good idea. Same person. You can't go wrong with that.
I know you did the teardown of the Model Y structural battery. Like we've certainly evolved it. We would call the Model Y structural battery maybe like a grade C.
This is interesting.
This is more
right
of a
here.
grade
You
B.
can already see some of the ground clearance. So this is the suspension and basically off-road mode, and it's a flat floor. There's no diff hanging down in between, so you get true ground clearance.
For off-roading, we've also leveraged all the work that we did on our own in-house stability control, like for track mode, to apply like more dynamic behaviors for off-roading, both rock crawling and for like Baja.
Well, I can put 3 shotguns in here, or 2 long rifles and an ammo box.
Yeah. And you have it kind of opens at an angle, but you have this sort of clamshell design where it's an L this way and an L that way, so you get a box section for it. I'm gonna try and pull that out, but this is that. Never get my fingers in there.
These fingers don't work.
There you go. This is another cool thing. We're trying to focus on service. So that's your HEPA filter replacement right there. It takes about 2 seconds.
Oh wow.
So you just unclip those, pull it out, and put one in. You do it right at home.
Yeah. Oh, and you got another.
Yeah, we got some underbed storage here.
That's where you put groceries. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yep, drain hole in the bottom.
and there you go. See, finally Ford gave you something.
But look, custom Cybertruck logo.
Oh my God. Look at that.
It's one of the few logos on the truck, by the way.
There's no Tesla logo.
There's no Tesla T or
Really?
Tesla badging anywhere on the truck.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What, I
exactly.
mean, save
so
the
we,
money.
we save the money. We save the weight.
Well, that was epic. Check out the link in the description to watch the full video. It's super nerdy. Lots of great details, and you can clearly see the guys at Tesla are extremely proud of the Cybertruck. Clearly, Sandy Munro quite impressed as well. And I just got to take a moment. Holy shit, does this thing look good? That stainless steel, the reflection, the plants, the light. Oh man, can't wait to see more of these things on roads. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, When I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment, see you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.